Hello there. If this turns out to be true, then Sadiq Khan should do the right thing and resign, or be forced out. According to the Telegraph, that has got hold of a draft decision by the Advertising Standards Agency, the ASA, Sadiq Khan is about to be slapped down for misleading the public over the benefits of the ULEZ, in that those benefits were overstated. An overstatement which, if true, will cost many of the poorest in London hundreds if not thousands of pounds. It also just cost the NHS a cool 65 million quid to upgrade their ambulances to make them ULEZ compliant, as well as costing the council taxpayers who funded it being established in the first place. And that will have been very expensive given the rate at which ULEZ cameras are seemingly being disabled. According to the Telegraph report, the ASA launched its investigation into Khan's claims when 578 people made complaints that the Mayor's Transport for London exaggerated the effect the ULEZ would have on improving air quality in London and wanted the ASA to challenge it. And Khan spent some 9 million quid on telling Londoners how effective the ULEZ would be. Now the report, which is still to be formally published and may yet be amended, basically says that the figures given were based on modelled estimates using historical scenarios and not based on real data. Sounds like a Professor Ferguson situation to me. But of course Khan's TfL have come out robustly defending their figures, and it is strongly challenging the ASA's draft recommendations. Scientific analysis based on modelled scenarios and estimates is standard practice in the scientific community. We are meeting with the ASA to take them through the data and explain in detail how it is used, they said. All this from Khan and the TfL sounds to me like the spouting of those who believe they know better than the hoi polloi. A just do as we say mentality. People who ignore the outcomes of their own so-called consultations. And if the ASA findings are borne out, people who are prepared to at least twist the truth and misrepresent it in order to get their own way. Now Londoners do have a chance to kick him out of office in the mayoral elections next May, but he does seem to have a very firm following, so I'm sure he'll sail back in and continue to spread his misery. Now this particular issue is all about air quality in the environment, not about net zero. But it appears to me that the Net Zero Brigade are using modelling in exactly the same way as TfL is in order to hysterically shut our economy and way of life down. But even in the face of growing doubt, no one's allowed to question the science. We're barked at and lectured at by people who grandly think they are so much better than the rest of us, just like Khan does. And these are the very people who spend their time driving around in gas guzzlers and flying about the planet so as to instruct the rest of us to not do what they're doing. The hypocrisy is mind-blowing. All those net zero lovies, actors and sports people and pundits we can all name, for some reason they think it's okay for them to despoil the planet, but not for the rest of us. So if those vocal net zero zealots won't stop, then I won't stop either. I mean, why should I? And these people expect the rest of us to slavishly follow their pronouncements, because they are rich and powerful, so must be so much better than the rest of us. It's back to the feudal future for the ordinary mortal on this earth, as well as having the constant threat of offending someone hanging over us all the time. with part of that being to endure a never-ending flow of minority protests where once again groups of the entitled go around damaging things and getting in our way, or even spreading hate and anti-Semitism. And we're meant to just tolerate it all, or be branded racists and bigots. Since when were minorities able to dictate to and not tolerate the majority in this country? Yes, not since feudal times. And what gets me, there are no repercussions for this activity. But back in 2018, 3 activists, one from the US, one from Canada, and one from Austria, were all banned from entering the country because of their criticisms of the Islamic faith. Yes, Brittany Pettibone, Lauren Southern, and Martin Sellner were not allowed in because they were planning to meet up with a team of people known to a certain Mr. Robinson. So the state used anti-terrorism laws to ban them. Just ponder on that. And here's what Lauren Southern said to Fox News after her lengthy interrogation by Border Force before they rejected her entry. It seems it could be marking the end of conservative speech in the UK, or the beginning of an era of serious censorship. And Brittany Pettibone put out on Twitter, "Fascinating that the UK Border Force allows so many illegals to slip through the cracks, but it's suddenly the most competent border force in the world when it comes to banning 2 female conservative independent journalists and an identitarian activist." And things have got considerably worse in the intervening few years. Now, as far as I know, those 3 never incited anything. In fact, their activities were nowhere near as bad as we let some people get away with today. And Douglas Murray, writing in the Gatestone Institute website, said, "In the past year, the UK has banned a fair number of people from entering the country. It has, for example, barred the Canadian activist and blogger Lauren Southern. It has also banned the Austrian activist and identitarian Martin Sellner. Whatever anyone's thoughts on either of those individuals, it is not possible to claim that either has ever addressed a rally of thousands of people which they have used to extol a murderer. Yet Hassan Hasib Rahman has done these things, and yet he has been allowed into the UK 3 years in a row." Now, there's some sort of pattern developing here, and I can't quite put my finger on it. Now, the London Mayor Sadiq Khan is no stranger to controversy. In 2016, he was forced to apologise for calling moderate Muslims Uncle Toms in 2009, saying he was a moderate Muslim too. And he's also defended the infamous Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan in his attempt to get into the UK in the early 2000s. According to a Mail report back in 2016, Farrakhan is a hugely controversial figure who has denounced white people as devils, described Jews as bloodsuckers, and called Hitler a very great man. At least Khan failed in that endeavour. And Khan's defence for doing this was that even the worst people need a defence. So I wonder if he'd been prepared to defend the corner of Brittany Pettibone, Lauren Southern and Martin Sellner. Anyway, tell us what you think about this ULEZ nonsense in the comments section below, and why not buy a mug with my mug on it?